You might be wondering, what do scientists, psychologists, lawyers, researchers, and other highly educated professionals say about the evidence for life after death of the body? Today, vast numbers of professionals who have studied the evidence for the afterlife and afterlife communication have concluded life after death is a proven fact beyond a reasonable doubt. In this video, I present a sampling of 43 scientists chosen because they are acknowledged experts in their fields. After their study of the data, they have concluded that when the brain dies, the mind continues to live. There are many others who could be included in this list. Hello, I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, President of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute and Seek Reality Online. I'm the author of 8 books containing the evidence there is no death and there are no dead. Your loved ones are now in the afterlife. They are alive and well. They fervently want to communicate with you to tell you they're fine. Don't worry about the transition at the end of this life. It is painless and will be a wonderful reunion with your loved ones. Today we have many thousands of testimonials and verified accounts in each of 15 areas of evidence of life after death. This is the 4th of 4 videos with examples from these areas of evidence. Links to the other 3 videos are in the descriptions below. You can read more of the evidence in my book, Evidence Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, You Will Never Die, available on Amazon. In this video, I present narrations of the statements by a sampling of 43 scientists who have studied the afterlife and afterlife communication. After their study of the data, they have all concluded that when your body and brain die, your mind will continue to live. There are a great many others who could be included in this list. Ron D. Pearson, British scientist, university lecturer, and engineer in thermodynamics and fluid mechanics.
Survival of death is a natural fact of physics, and efforts to discredit evidence of survival after death are in error.
Jan van der Sande, physicist, holder of 3 patents on thermoelectric materials, consultant to NASA, manager at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and professor at Cornell University.
After 8 years of studying materializations of those appearing from the life after this life, I am convinced that the materializations are people from the afterlife and that the life after this life is a reality.
Thomas Alva Edison, inventor of the phonograph and electric light bulb. He was a spiritualist, and he experimented with mechanical means of contacting the dead.
We can evolve an instrument so delicate as to be affected or moved or manipulated by our personality as it survives in the next life.
Sir Joseph John Thomson, discoverer of the electron, professor of experimental physics at Cambridge, and winner of the Nobel Prize in Physics.
People continue to live after the body dies.
Abdus Salam, Nobel laureate and director of the International Center for Theoretical Physics.
The life after this life is a reality.
Augustus de Morgan, the most brilliant mathematician of the 19th century.
After first-hand experiences with mediums, I am satisfied that the physical mediumship phenomena are real.
Robert Hare, emeritus professor of chemistry at the University of Pennsylvania and world-renowned inventor.
The communications with my parents, sister, brother, and dearest friends in the afterlife were real.
James J. Mapes, professor of chemistry and natural philosophy at the National Academy of Design in New York, and later at the American Institute.
Spirits can and do communicate with mortals, and in all cases evince a desire to elevate and advance those they commune with.
Allan Kardec, professor of chemistry, physics, comparative anatomy, and astronomy.
Communication can be received through speech, hearing, sight, touch, etc., and even through direct writing of the spirits themselves. That is to say, without the help of the medium's hand or of the pencil.
Sir William Crookes, physicist and chemist who discovered the element thallium, pioneer in radioactivity, and inventor of the radiometer, the spinthariscope, and high vacuum tube that contributed to the discovery of the X-ray.
The phenomena in seances point to the existence of another order of human life, continuous with this, and demonstrate the possibility of communication between this world and the next.
Sir William Barrett, Professor of Physics at the Royal College of Science in Dublin for 37 years, discoverer of a silicon-iron alloy important in the development of the telephone and construction of transformers.
I am personally convinced that the evidence we have published decidedly demonstrates 1. The existence of a spiritual world, 2. Survival after death, and 3. Of communication from those who have passed over.
Sir Oliver Lodge, Professor of Physics at University College in Liverpool, Principal at the University of Birmingham, and pioneer in electricity, the radio, and the spark plug.
People in the afterlife still continue to take an interest in what is going on. They know far more about things on this earth than we do, and are able to communicate with us.
Camille Flammarion, world-renowned astronomer, founder of the French Astronomical Society, known for his study of Mars, and pioneer in the use of balloons to study the stars.
I do not hesitate to affirm my conviction, based on personal examination of the subject, that any man who declares the phenomena to be impossible is one who speaks without knowing what he is talking about.
Charles Richet, Professor of Physiology at the University of Paris Medical School, world authority on nutrition in health and disease, and winner of the Nobel Prize for his work on allergic reactions.
The facts seem undeniable. I am convinced that I have been present at medium sessions that are a reality.
Robert Crookall, lecturer at Aberdeen University before joining the staff of the British Geological Survey, specializing in coal-forming plants.
Survival is as well established as the theory of evolution.
Raynor C. Johnson, physicist, Oxford scholar with a doctorate from the University of London, lecturer in physics at King's College, University of London, and Master of Queen's College at the University of Melbourne.
If survival of death is not rigorously proven, it is nevertheless established as of that high order or probability, which for practical purposes can be taken as the same thing.
John Logie Baird, inventor of the television and infrared camera.
I have witnessed some very startling phenomena under circumstances which make trickery out of the question.
George Meek, scientist, inventor, designer, and manufacturer of devices for air conditioning and wastewater treatments.
People are immortal, and I wrote my findings in my book, After We Die, What Then?
Archie Roy, Professor Emeritus of Astronomy at the University of Glasgow, Fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, the Royal Astronomical Society, and the British Interplanetary Society, and head of the Advanced Scientific Institutes for NATO.
I am convinced now of the reality of such psychic phenomena.
Dr. William James, the father of American psychology.
One who takes part in a good sitting has a sense both of the reality and of the importance of the communication.
Dr. Cesare Lombroso, Professor of Psychology at the University of Turin, Inspector of Asylums for the Insane in Italy, and pioneering criminologist known worldwide for his book, The Criminal Man.
There can be no doubt that genuine psychical phenomena are produced by intelligences totally independent of the psychic and the parties present at the sittings.
Dr. Bruce Grayson, Professor of Psychiatry at the University of Connecticut, Chester F. Carlson, Professor Emeritus of Psychiatry and Neurobehavioral Sciences at the University of Virginia, and near-death experience researcher for over 25 years.
The survival hypothesis is the most parsimonious explanation for the growing database of near-death experiences.
Dr. Carl A. Wicklund, member of the Chicago Medical Society and American Association for the Advancement of Science, and director of the National Psychological Institute of Los Angeles.
Spirits on the next planes of life communicate with and affect people on the earth plane.
Dr. Gardner Murphy, Hodgson Memorial Fund Research Grant recipient at Harvard, president of the American Society for Psychical Research for 20 years, assistant psychology professor at Columbia University, and chairman of the psychology department at City College of New York.
The case looks like communication with the deceased.
Dr. Gary Schwartz, PhD from Harvard University, professor of psychology and psychiatry at Yale University, and director of the Laboratory for Advances in Consciousness and Health at the University of Arizona.
I can no longer ignore the data on research into the survival of consciousness and dismiss the words coming through mediums. They are as real as the sun, the trees, and our television sets, which seem to pull pictures out of the air.
Dr. John Klimo, psychology professor for over 30 years, most recently at the American School of Professional Psychology, Argosy University.
I personally choose to believe that we do meaningfully survive death and can communicate back through mediums and channels.
Dr. David Fontana, professor of transpersonal psychology in Great Britain, past president of the Society for Psychical Research, and fellow of the British Psychological Society.
If your answer to questions of our existence is that you are more than a biological accident, whose ultimately meaningless life is bounded by the cradle and the grave, then I have to say, I agree with you.
Carl Jung, eminent psychoanalyst, contemporary of Freud and father of Jungian psychology.
What happens after death is so unspeakably glorious that our imagination and feelings do not suffice to form even an approximate conception of it.
Frederick W. H. Myers, English poet, critic, and essayist, fellow classical lecturer and school inspector at Trinity College, Cambridge, and co-founder of the Society for Psychical Research in London.
Messages of the departing and the departed have, to my mind, actually proved A. In the first place, they prove survival pure and simple, the persistence of the spirit's life as a structural law of the universe, the inalienable heritage of each several soul.
Dr. Richard Hodgson, professor at the University of Melbourne, poetry and philosophy instructor at University Extension, and instructor of philosophy at Cambridge University.
The truth has been given to me in such a way as to remove from me the possibility of a doubt of the continuance of life after death.
Dr. James H. Hislop, PhD from Johns Hopkins University, LLD from the University of Worcester. He was a philosophy professor at Lake Forest University, Smith College, and Bucknell University, and a professor at Columbia University.
Personally, I regard the fact of survival after death as scientifically proved.
Dr. Hamlin Garland, Pulitzer Prize-winning author of 52 books.
My experiences in seances have convinced me of the survival of consciousness.
Maurice Maeterlinck, Nobel laureate in literature, poet, author and playwright, and psychic researcher.
The afterlife communication experiences are genuine.
Dr. William R. Newbold, professor of philosophy at the University of Pennsylvania, where he was a member of the Advisory Council of the American Society for Psychical Research.
The essential independence of the mind and the body, of the existence of a supersensible world, and of the possibility of occasional communication between that world and this, is evidence that is worthy of consideration for all these points.
Dr. Hornell Hartz, professor of sociology at Duke University, and author of several important books on social and psychological problems.
Human personality does survive bodily death.
Colin Brooks Smith, British engineer.
Survival should be regarded as a sufficiently well-established fact to be beyond denial by any reasonable person. It is a momentous scientific conclusion of prime importance to mankind.
Edward C. Randall, prominent Buffalo, New York trial lawyer, member of the board of directors of a number of large corporations.
Hundreds, yea, thousands of spirits have come and talked with me, and to many whom I have invited to participate in the work. Thousands of different voices with different tones, different thoughts, different personalities, no two alike, and at times in different languages.
Victor James Zammit, retired lawyer of the Supreme Court of New South Wales and the High Court of Australia.
After many years of serious investigation, I have come to the irretrievable conclusion that there is a great body of evidence which, taken as a whole, absolutely and unqualifiedly, proves the case for the afterlife.
John Worth Edmonds, Circuit Judge, State Supreme Court Judge, member of the New York Assembly, and Colonel in the militia.
After visiting a variety of mediums and evaluated their sessions using various devices, the phenomena were not produced by any person in the rooms.
Isaac K. Funk, Lutheran minister, co-founder of Funk and Wagnalls, and editor-in-chief of the Standard Dictionary of the English Language.
I have the absolute assurance that when the something we call death comes, it will only mean a new and larger and more complete life.
Charles Drayton Thomas, graduate of Richmond Theological College and a Methodist minister.
There should be a general acceptance of this evidence for survival.
Pierre-Francois Brune, Catholic priest, member of the Catholic Institute in Paris and Biblical Institute in Rome, theologian, and a professor in a number of leading seminaries.
Without any doubt, we have come to the realization that afterlife communication exists, and indeed corresponds very often to an authentic communication with our dead.
These accounts are of highly regarded professionals, testifying that after studying the evidence, they have concluded there is life after death, and we can communicate with people living there. Many other professionals have come to the same conclusion, proving you will come to the end of this life, but you will never die. There are 14 other areas of evidence of life after death in this series. Links to the evidence are in the description below.